Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is October 14th, 2024, and I do have an injury update for you in regards to Lamine Yamal, Fermin Lopez, and Dani Olmo. Also, Reece James has been linked with Barcelona, and finally, the club are reportedly weighing up the option of bringing back Oscar Mingueza. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mo. This is the Barca News live podcast where not only do we discuss Barcelona news, but also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments out loud. For those of you who be watching when the podcast ends, I'll be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion. I haven't said all of that. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. If you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to kick back goal kits or fanatics. And if you are looking to place any sports bets, make sure to bet us. All links are down below in the description. All right, let's begin with the news. And as always, the first segment of the video will include several short bits of news, I should say that way, starting with bad news because Barcelona have confirmed the injury of Lamine Yamal. Now, as we know, Lamine Yamal participated with the Spanish national team during the FIFA international break in that garbage made-up trophy called the Nations League, and where he played against Denmark, and where Denmark's solution to stop Lamine Yamal was to kick the shit out of him, because that's the only way they knew how to stop him. And as a result, we saw Lamine Yamal leaving the stadium limping. Of course, Barcelona immediately submitted a request to the Spanish national team to release the player. And initially, the Spanish national team were hesitant because they were saying, oh, just an overload. He's just tired. He's just sore. He'll sleep it off and he'll be good. And in fact, we found out that even Luis de la Fuente tried to block the release of Lamine Yamal, but it seems that eventually the Spanish national team conceded. They released Lamine Yamal. He flew back to the city of Barcelona yesterday, and as usual, today the club performed medical exams on Lamine Yamal, and they confirmed that no, it was not an overload. No, he was not just tired. No, he wasn't going to just sleep it off like the Spanish national team were suggesting, but instead, that Lamine Yamal has suffered a strain to his left hamstring. Now, how long will Lamine Yamal will be out? We don't know. As always, the club does not give a timeline. They always say that the return is going to depend on how the player progresses through training, but it doesn't seem to be a serious injury. We'll see how Lamine Yamal does throughout practices this week. We'll see how he evolves. We'll see how he feels during trainings. But as of now, he is a doubt for the match against Sevilla, which is the first match back from the international break. That doesn't mean that he will for sure miss that match, but he is a doubt. Barcelona, again, we'll see how he does during practice all this week. And based on his feelings, they'll decide whether he is going to be cleared for the Sevilla match or not. And even if he is, we might see Flick just rest him up because, again, he has been playing a lot and he does deserve some rest, especially because we do have two very difficult matches right after Sevilla. Bayern Munich in the Champions League in the middle of the week, and then the following weekend, of course, against Real Madrid in the Clásico match. So definitely bad news in that regards. No, it's not a muscle overload. It is an actual injury that Lamine Yamal has suffered. But from bad news, we move on to good news. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Dani Olmo is set to receive the green light or the medical clearance from Barcelona's doctors. And that is great, great news because, of course, we need as many players available as possible because it seems like we can never have a healthy squad. As we were hearing about Gabi returning, we hear that Ferran gets injured. As we hear that more players are going to come back, boom. Or as Frankie is coming back, boom, we get now Lamine Yamal. So, Dani Olmo, who got injured in the match against Girona, who had a spectacular start to the season with Barcelona, scoring 3 goals in 3 matches, suffered an injury in that victory against Girona. We thought it was just initially was thought it was just a light injury. He's going to be out a few days, but it turned out to be more serious. And as a result, he's been out for several weeks now, but it's reported that his recovery has gone very, very well. It's gone a lot faster than initially anticipated. And now they're saying that Dani Olmo is set to receive the green light any of these days, which means that he will be available for that match against Sevilla. And that's great news because, again, if Lamine is not going to be available, it's good to know that Dani Olmo will be back. And not only that, but Fermin Lopez has also recovered from his injury, and he too is set to be available for the match against Sevilla. Now, Fermin Lopez got injured in last September during FIFA international break with Spanish under-21. Initially, it was going to be a short recovery, but then during practice, he got re-injured, which added 3 more weeks to his recovery. But now it seems that Fermin Lopez has fully recovered from his injury, so he too is expected to be available for the match against Sevilla, which again, also great news, because if Lamine is not going to be available, it's good to know that Olmo and Fermin will, which of course begs the question, who's going to play who? I'm guessing if Dani Olmo will be available, he could play in an attacking midfield position. Rafinha maybe can move to the right, and maybe Ansu can get his shot at the left, or maybe even Fermin, right? Because Fermin has played in that position. But definitely Flick has now more options, that 2 more players will be healthy. And of course, there is Gabi, who everyone's expecting to be back after the international break. So bad news as far as Lamine Yamal, but great news as far as Dani Olmo and Fermin, who will both be available for the match against Sevilla. All right, let's do the chat section, and then we will give you an update about the 2026 election because things are heating up, my friend. All right, Not the Gamer says, do you personally believe Mingueza should come back? I'll talk about Mingueza in a little bit, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. Harry Nedu says, hi, Mo. I think Barca should promote Urena Oscar. I think that guy that played well in the left wing. He is. I don't think if he's ready yet. So, Not the Gamer says, Mo, did you see the video Barca posted of Fermin back at practice? Yes, I just mentioned. Fermin Lopez is healthy, and he will be available for the match against Sevilla. And Sunday Dylan says, yo, Mo, good evening. Good evening to you too, my friend. And Mark Herford says, if Reece James didn't get injured so often, I'd be happy about it, but I don't think I could handle his injuries. I'll talk about Reece James in a little bit, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. And Johnny says, hello, Mo, from Chicago. Keep up the good work you're doing, my friend. Thank you, my friend, all the way from Chi-Town. I love Chicago, by the way. I went a few years back. September, great weather. Loved it, loved the food, loved the deep dish pizza. But as someone who lives in New York, I'm biased, I have to say. New York pizza is better. Hopefully that doesn't make you hate me, but let's see. Not the Gamer says, if Reece James agrees to not get paid when he's injured, then he would be basically have a player playing for free. Fair enough, fair enough. Romain says, Mo, laundry is done. Let's go. Actually, you're right. It is my laundry. It's actually my I know it's my washer. I thought it was my dryer, but yes, my washer is done. My dryer is still going, so I'm sure you hear my dryer in a little bit. But anyways, let's get back to the news because we do have an election update for the 2026 upcoming elections. Now, as I reported in a previous video, Laporta's opposition are considering uniting. They've been having meetings, lunches, dinners, because of course there are several people who are considering being candidates in the upcoming election. And these meetings have been to bring all candidates together and run as a one block against Joan Laporta because, kind of like uniting forces to unite everyone's vote. If this candidate can get this much votes and this candidate can get much votes, if you put them all together, you combine all the votes, and perhaps that could be enough to defeat Joan Laporta. So that was the latest news I told you about, that the opposition were having meetings considering uniting. And now I have an update because that's exactly what's going to happen. It looks like these meetings have gone well for the opposition, especially for Som Un Clam. That's the party that has been formed by Jean Camproui, the guy whose father and grandfather were former Barcelona presidents. He's been kind of like the strongest or most loudest voice in opposition to Laporta, aside from Victor Font, who spends day and night criticizing Laporta. But Jean Camproui formed the Som Un Clam party. He's the one, him and his party, the one who came up with this idea. They've been meeting with different possible candidates. And finally, they've all agreed that, yes, they're all going to come together under one banner and they're going to run as a block, a historical block, because I don't think this has ever been done in Barcelona's election history. That's exactly what's going to happen because they are hell-bent on getting Joan Laporta out of the presidency. Now, the only two people who have not agreed to join is, of course, Victor Font, because he believes, he has what it takes to run on his own. After all, he finished second in the last elections with over 17,000 votes. So he doesn't see the need to unite with anyone. He believes that, on his own, he can defeat Laporta. And the third person is, and I'm blanking on his name, Marc Siria. Marc Siria is the other candidate who has decided also not to join forces with them. Nonetheless, Somunclam did meet with both Victor Font and with Marc Siria to make the proposal to have them unite, but both of them said no. Good thing, because I think if Victor Font does end up uniting with them, I think that could spell trouble for Joan Laporta, because, again, Victor Font is very popular. He has a lot of backing. So his votes, plus everyone else who's joined this bloc, could eventually cause some serious problems for Joan Laporta. But that's the news. The opposition have met their objective of uniting under one banner. They will run under one block, as a one block against Joan Laporta in the election of 2026, which, again, as I said before, I think to me this is nothing but opportunism. Where were all these candidates in 2021 when the club was on the verge of bankruptcy, when the club was marred in debt, when the footballing project was absolutely pathetic? It was sad what we were seeing on the field. Now, all of a sudden, when the club is doing much better financially, when the club is getting out of debt, when the club is finally going to reach the one-to-one rule after many years of not being under that rule, when the club is finally posting positive results, financial results every year after 8 years of posting losses, when the club is finally has pushed through the stadium, which will be ready by the time the elections roll around. Now that the club is doing great, all of a sudden, all these candidates are coming up. My question is, where were you guys when the club was on the verge of bankruptcy, when the club was on the verge of disappearing? Where were you? Nowhere to be found. Of course, now that everything's great, everybody wants to run for president. So I guess welcome to the party. I wish you would have joined earlier. Anyways, let's start with the comment section or continue with the comment section since we already started. And then we will talk about Reece James and his links to Barcelona. Wisdom Econom says the coaches are simply trying to win. They're not trying to get anyone injured, regardless of his club, nor are they trying to protect any other player. The simple fact is Real Madrid don't have any except Carvajal. I agree partly with your statement that, yes, I have seen people saying that Luis de la Fuente is picking Barcelona players on purpose to ruin. Let's be more serious again. Luis de la Fuente is not picking Barcelona players because he wants to hurt Barcelona by getting those players injured. That's just silly. Luis de la Fuente is picking those Barcelona players because we happen to have the best players. Why? We have best academy in Spain, so we produce the best Spanish talent, because normally academies, most of the talent they produce is from that country where they're located. Why? Because these academies recruit kids, and kids usually go to the academy where they live, right? They don't. It's very rare to see a kid leaving his country to go to academy another. It happens, but overall, kids go to the academies where that's close to them. So usually, La Masia, being in Spain, of course, most of the talent is going to produce is going to be Spanish, right? So why does Luis de la Fuente pick a lot of Barcelona players? Because we have the best Barcelona players, right? Luis de la Fuente is not picking Lamine Yamal because, I just want to ruin him. It's because he literally is the best right winger in all of the world, but in all of Spain. So, of course, he's going to pick him. Same with Pedri. Same with maybe not Ferran, but you get the point, right? So that's why Spain is picking these players, because they are the best. He's not doing it to ruin Barcelona's run, right? Now, as far as the coaches simply trying to win, that's fine. Of course, every coach's job is to win. But that does not take away from your responsibility towards the players, however. Yes, you should win, but you should not win at the cost of your players. Luis de la Fuente is still responsible for his players' health. Even if most of the time they're with their clubs, when they're under his care, he should still be responsible for their health. Hansi Flick has done his part. He has rotated Lamine. He has rested him. Luis de la Fuente should do the same. He too should be responsible for the health of Lamine when Lamine is under his care. Just because he only sees Lamine once every few days, a month, doesn't mean all of a sudden I'll just wash my hands and be like, I don't care. Let him play 100 minutes and let him get kicked left and right. Who cares? No, you're still responsible for your players. And right now, Luis de la Fuente is taking that responsibility and shitting all over it, because he's pretty much time and time again said that he gives 0 Fs about Lamine Yamal and about his players, that all he cares about them playing and winning. And well, if they tear their ACLs and they break their legs, who cares? As long as I get my win, I'm fine. And that's pretty much has been his stance, right? Clemente says, hopefully Olmo continues his form because he sure has shut me up. I hope so too. I hope he recovers fully from his injury and then he can continue contributing to the team. Triple X says, Chelsea James isn't a right back. He's a I'll be right back. Hell no, I'd go for Trent instead if it means going for Cheese James. I'll talk about him in a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of myself. And Wisdom says, I really don't want to see Rafinha on the right wing. I know what you mean because, yeah, he on the right wing, he just hasn't worked out, even though that is his natural position. But if we have to give Lamine some rest, and we'll have to give Lamine some rest, you know, especially against Sevilla. I'd rather rest Lamine against Sevilla and have Rafinha play in that position and then have Lamine be ready for Bayern Madrid than play Lamine against Sevilla and risk him not being healthy for Madrid and Bayern, which is where we really going to need him. All right, let's get back to the news and let's talk about this guy who you guys are all talking about. Reece James, the 24-year-old right back who is reportedly looking to leave Chelsea. Now, as all of you have highlighted it in the chat section, Reece James has been dealing with a lot of injuries, a lot of setbacks back and forth. I think he spent most of second half of last season injured. He came back in May, I think, played one match or something like that, got re-injured. And now there's not even a deadline for him or a timeline for him on when he's going to come back. He's still injured, if I'm not mistaken. I don't follow the Premier League too much, but I'm pretty sure he's still injured. But Reece James is someone who's been dealing with injuries for quite some time, and it seems that his doctors have recommended to him that he needs to move to a country with warmer weather because apparently that would help his injury. I don't know how true that is. Sounds a little quackish to me, but I'm not a doctor, so let's leave it at that. But apparently his doctors have recommended that he move to a warmer country, that it could help his injury. I know warmer weather does help with injuries like osteoporosis, things like that, things that have to do with the bones. I'm not sure how much it has to do with an athlete, his muscles, etc. But anyways, supposedly that's the recommendation. And as such, he has been linked to Barcelona. Now, Barcelona is not the only club that Reece has been linked to. He's also been linked to Real Madrid and Benfica, and even some sources are saying Manchester, which does not make sense because if he moves to Manchester United, he's still being square one, which is cold English weather. But anyways, now, why has Reece James been linked with Barcelona? Because it's been confirmed Barcelona are still monitoring the market to sign someone for the right back position. Now, you might say, why would Barcelona want to sign a right back? The reason is because, yes, we have Jules Koundé, who's doing absolutely amazing, but right now there's no one to substitute with Koundé, and there's no one to compete with Koundé for that position. Now, you might say, Mo, what about Hector Fort? The problem with Hector Fort is that it seems that Flick doesn't think that he's fully ready to be a competition for Koundé, right? He thinks he has potential, thinks he's skilled, but he thinks he still has a lot more to learn, a lot more experience to gain, and as such, doesn't see Hector Fort as being ready to not only rotate with Koundé, but to be Koundé's competition. Because in order to get the best out of players, you need someone else to compete with them and someone who's capable of competing with them, right? That's how you keep the pressure on a player. Because if you're Koundé and you're thinking, wow, this guy is like really good, he can take my spot any moment, you're going to push hard. You're going to train hard, you're going to play hard because you know at any moment, this guy can take your position away. But if you're competing with someone like Hector Fort, who, yes, is skilled, talented, has potential, but is not even close to you, you're going to think, if I train hard, I don't train hard, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. I'm way better than this guy. I'm keeping my position. And that's kind of what we saw with Jordi Alba for many years, right? His performance really dipped because there was no one to compete with him. As soon as Balde took the starting position away from him, whenever Jordi Alba would come in as a sub, all of a sudden it was the old Jordi Alba, right? Because consciously or subconsciously, players need that competition. They need that other player breathing down their neck saying, hey, any moment you fall asleep at the wheel, I'm taking your position away. Koundé doesn't have that competition right now. And as such, it's reported that Barcelona are tracking the market. They're seeing what kind of options they can get to bring someone to the club to compete with Koundé and also to rotate with Koundé And while since Reece James is now looking to leave Chelsea, he has been linked with Barcelona. Does that mean Barcelona are seriously interested? Does that mean Barcelona want to sign him? No. It simply is a link. Barcelona are, they know he's available. It's a consideration, but doesn't mean that Barcelona are serious about it. Now, Reece James does have a market value of around 35 million euros. He has a contract until 2028, which of course would make it difficult to get him out because he has 3.5 more years left on his contract. But they're saying that Chelsea would not be fully opposed to Reece James leaving because why? Because Chelsea has about 5,000 players, and they need to release players in order to lighten their wage bill because, of course, Chelsea being Chelsea, they sign like crazy, and then they end up with 20 players per position. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do with these players. Well, maybe you shouldn't have signed all of them. But anyways, so that's the news. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts. For me, I think Reece James is a great player, but like you guys have pointed out, this guy spends more time in the infirmary than he does on the field. So it doesn't matter how skilled and talented a player is. If he's going to spend most of his time injured, what's the point, right? Anyways, let's do the chat section, and then we will talk about Oscar Mingueza. All right, let's see. What is everyone seeing? Sunday Dylan says, where if you're Sunday Dylan, what are you on Mondays? Because today is Monday, and that's why I'm asking. Says, yo, Mo, I think Yamal should be rest against Sevilla. I think so, too. I think that's a match where we can afford to have Yamal on the bench. And especially if Olmo and Fermin are coming back, I think, we could definitely rest them. And that's also a great opportunity for Ansu Fati, right? This is Ansu Fati's chance to shine, to show Flick that he deserves a starting spot. And, we can have Ansu on the left, move Rafinha to the right, and then have Dani Olmo in the attacking midfield position, right? And even if you don't think Dani Olmo is ready to start since he just came back from injury, we're going to have Pedri in the attacking midfield and have Casado and Eric Garcia in a double pivot, and then bring in Dani Olmo later on in the match. That way he doesn't right away start, right? Because you don't want to do that to a player that just came back from injury, just throw him out there and have him play 90 minutes, right? But anyways. All right, let's see. Trauvs says, hey, Mo, I think Barca should buy the left wing back from Villarreal. Who exactly are you talking about? Triple X says, don't worry, Flick will rest Yamal. We'll need him fully fit for Bayern and the Clásico. I hope so, my friend. I hope so. And Monster Lou says, I like deep dish pizza, and I'm from Jersey. Ooh, interesting. I like it too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything bad about deep dish. I think deep dish is really delicious. But pizza's meant to be eaten folded, not with a fork and knife. You know what I mean? Anyways. Not the Gamer says, are there any good players we could get in January on a free besides Partey, Davis, and Trent? Actually, Partey would not be till summer. Other free agents, none come to mind, like on top of my head right away. I'm sure they're probably not free agents whose contract would expire in January, because no contract expires in January. Most players sign until June of every year, of any year, right? So the players whose contract is actually expiring in January, none. The only free agents that would be available in January is free agents that didn't sign over the summer and they just spent the first half of the season without a contract, which I don't think that's a good idea, because a player that hasn't played for this long, if they didn't get signed in the summer, that means the last match they played was probably end of May, and to be signed in January, now you're talking about 7-8 months without play time. It's going to take you a long time to get back into competitive rhythm. And then, what are you doing, right? Now, you can sign players whose contracts are about to expire in the summer, like Jonathan Tah. His contract will expire in June. You can't sign him in the winter. You will have to pay, but it's going to be a lot less, right? Because now Bayer Leverkusen could be like, oh, crap, this guy's not renewing. And if we don't sell him right now, this is our last chance. Because if we don't sign him right now, that's it. He's leaving for free. So they might agree to a lower price. But at that point, unless you have some serious injuries that you need to replace, at that point, you're like, might as well just wait till the summer and get him for free rather than pay now. Unless, of course, again, if you have some really serious injuries and you're like, I need someone right now. But anyways, all right, let's see. Brittany says, hi, Mo, is Danny Rodriguez back from his injury? I don't think so. I think he's going to miss most of the first half of the season, as far as I know. All right, Lamine. Fofana. Oh, I thought it was Lamine Yamal. I was like, he's not injured. He's on here. He's on the podcast. He says, I hope Lamine Yamal will be available for Sevilla game. I hope he's available. That means he's recovered from his injury, but I hope he doesn't play because I would rather him get, an extra day of rest or 2-3 days of rest. And that way he is fully fresh, fully recovered, 100% available for the Bayern and Clásico match, right? So I hope he is available, but I also hope he doesn't play against Sevilla. Clemente says, would you like to keep Laporta or give someone else an opportunity to push Barca forward? That's a good question. At this point, if the elections were today, I would say keep Laporta because he has done a great job getting the club out of the financial hole, pushing the stadium through, getting new sponsors, getting new investment, getting the club out of debt. Well, not completely out of debt, but he's refinanced a lot of the debt. He's improved the credit of Barcelona. Before Laporta took over, Barcelona couldn't get a loan to buy a sandwich because banks were just like laughing at us. Like, you want me to give you a loan? You're a mess. Now, banks are actually willing to at least give us loans and restructure our debt, right? So as far as getting out of financial hole, Laporta has done a great job. So if you were to tell me today, like elections were today, absolutely, I would want to keep Laporta. 2026, I don't know because we got 2 more years to go. And 2 years are a very long time in football, right? For all we know, in 2 years, Laporta decides, I don't know, he's getting old and he gets late life crisis, not a midlife crisis because he's in his 60s, and decides to start spending, blowing the club's money on hookers, cocaine, and alcohol. In that case, obviously, no, let's not keep him, right? But as of today, yes, I would keep him. In 2026, ask me that question again because, again, 2 years is a very long time in football, not in life because we're already October, and I feel like New Year's was 2 days ago. All right, let's get back to the news, the last bit of news, and then we will do more comments, I promise. But let's talk about Oscar Mingueza, the 25-year-old right back, the academy graduate, someone who came up through La Masia, who got called up to the first team, did not really shine under Xabi. And in fact, when Xabi told him that he didn't count on him, he was such a culé, such a club man that he even apologized to Xabi. He said, I'm sorry, I'm not up to par. I will agree to leave. I'm not going to cause any problems because I want the best for Barcelona. So he was willing to sacrifice his own dream of playing in Barcelona for the best of the club. He agreed to leave on his own, even apologizing for not living it up. He went to Celta Vigo. He found his break at Celta Vigo. He broke through. He had an excellent season last season. He's having a great season right now, so much so that he's even been called up to the Spanish national team, something he hadn't achieved in the past. And as such, Barcelona are now seriously considering bringing Oscar Mingueza back. Why? For the same reason I just talked about on why Reece James had been linked to Barcelona, because the club wants someone to not only rotate with Koundé, but they want someone to compete with Koundé. And Flakes thinks that Hector Ford is still not ready to assume that responsibility. As such, Barcelona are seriously considering bringing Oscar Mingueza back in the winter. Of course, Barcelona still owe part of his rights. He would cost 10 million euros. I think that's his release clause. But I'm sure because Barcelona still owe a percentage of his rights, they probably wouldn't have to pay the full 10 million euros. Now, the club Celta Vigo confirmed that Barcelona did not have a buyback option. So Barcelona could not activate an option, but they could activate his release clause. And I think they owe 50% of the rights of the player. So if the release clause is set at 10 and you owe 50%, most likely you would only have to pay 5 million, which it's a pretty cheap deal to bring back an academy player, someone who's doing great, and someone who can technically compete with Jules Koundé and be also Jules Koundé's rotational player. Or who knows, maybe he comes back and he kills it and ends up taking Jules Koundé's spot. I doubt it, not because Oscar Mingueza is not good, but because Jules Koundé is just on another level. To me right now, Jules Koundé is one of the best, if not the best, right backs in all of Europe. So that's the news. And that, of course, begs the question, would you guys like to see Oscar Mingueza back? I know Not the Gamer asked me that at the beginning of the stream. I said I'm not going to get ahead of myself. But now that we've talked about it, I'll answer your question. Would I like to see Oscar Mingueza back? Yes. He's a culé through and through, someone who came up through the academy. He knows the Barcelona style of play, and he's doing great right now. So yes, but at the same time, I would hate to see what would happen to Hector Fort. And I would hate to see Hector Fort go down the same road as Oscar Mingueza, right? Because if Oscar Mingueza comes, forget about it. Hector Fort, there's not going to be space for him, right? We're going to have to loan him out. He's going to be going back and forth from club to club on loans. And then he might eventually say, what am I doing here? I just want to leave. I want to, find a club that actually wants me to stay. And I would hate to see that happen to Hector Fort. And then in 4 or 5 years, Hector Fort is killing it. And then we're like, all right, let's bring him back. Kind of like what happened with Mingueza. So on one hand, yes, I wouldn't mind Mingueza coming back. But on the other hand, I just would hate to see what that would do to Hector Fort. But at the end of the day, we need someone, right? And if Hector Fort is not ready to compete with Koundé, we need someone who is. Tough situation, but that's what it's like at Barcelona. That's why very, very, very few people could be Barcelona's managers. All right, that's all the news for this podcast. Let's do some comments, and then we will end it. And later tonight, I will upload a news video because, yes, there is more news. All right, IB says no to both players. James that can't stop getting injured while lacing his boots. We moved above Mingueza. They can take Garcia. Who can take Garcia? Adon C says, hi, Mo. Really love your work. Avac, you are just a legend. Thanks for all the updates from our beloved club, Barcelona. No, thank you, my friend, for watching, and thank you for your comments. And Sunday says, wow, Mo, I can't wait. Olmo, Gabi, and Fermin back to action. I can't wait either. I think that it's going to be absolutely amazing. Not the Gamer says these people are absolute disgrace. They're not here to be good leaders. They're just here to ruin everything Laporta's done. Unfortunately, that's politics for you. It's not even about the best or what's best for whatever, the nation that you're running for or the state or the city, whatever you're running for. Most of the time, those candidates are not running because they're looking for what's the best. They just want the power, right? And they can have Jesus himself come down from the sky and be the president of a country and be doing the best. And they're still going to trash talk Jesus because they want that position, right? Even if what best is to leave Jesus as the president, they're still going to be like, no, screw that. I want to be the president because, well, who doesn't want the power, right? And Klaus, my man Klaus, back in the comment section says Reece is injury prone. Yes, he is. Again, great player, but the guy just can't stay healthy. And again, as I've said before, no matter how talented you are, if you cannot stay healthy, then what's the point? If he was someone who could stay healthy, I would love to have Reece James. I think he's a great player, but injuries, unfortunately. It's kind of like Dembele, right? Great player, but what was the point? He spent most of the time on the bench. Another thing is, and I don't know if this is maybe an opinion not backed by data, but it's not backed by data because I haven't looked at the data. But I feel like whenever we take players, English players, out of the Premier League, they seem to have a hard time. I don't know why. Maybe Jude Bellingham is the exception, or maybe not, right? Jude Bellingham started really strong last season, and then towards half the season, his form just dipped. But I feel like whenever we take out English players out of the Premier League, it's just, I don't know. It's like they don't seem to work out too well at other leagues. Or maybe I'm just imagining it. I don't know. I haven't looked at the data. You guys let me know. Young Braveheart says, yeah, Mo, you're right. Where were they when the club was going to go through all these money problems? At home, because who wants a tough job, right? It's like, now that by 2026, by the way, the club is going to be, we're already doing much better. We're getting out of the hole. In 2026, the club is going to be even 10 times better. The stadium's going to be complete. Barcelona's going to be having the income from the stadium. So we're not going to be registering 15, 12 million euros in profits. We're going to be 300-400 million euros in profit, which means our debt is going to get paid really quickly. So by 2026, it's going to be smooth sailing. So yeah, of course, who doesn't want to take over a club that's smooth sailing, that's making money? Stadium just got renovated. The project is doing great. Even I could run Barcelona in that state, right? Because I don't have to do anything. I can just show up and be like, all right, everybody keep doing what you guys were doing. And that's it. And then claim all the credit, right? And be like, hey, look at me. I'm great. The club's making money. Stadium looking great, but I didn't do anything. So yeah, who doesn't want to run when the club is doing great? But where were you guys when the club was doing bad? When you actually have to get to work, when you actually have to come up with creative solutions, when you have to travel and meet with people and hustle and grind to get the club out of the hole. No one wants to do that, right? It's much easier to run a club that's doing great and just be like, all right, guys, look how great the club's doing, and then take a nap. Not the Gamer says, when Barca players are rested for Spain, people want them to play. When they do play, people want them to be rested. Wake up, people, and get some brains. Yeah, for real. Klaus says, Trent actually sees Barca as his second team after Liverpool, Trent being a scouser. I don't see Trent actually ever wanting to come to Barca. But plus, I cannot imagine Trent. Wait, when does his contract expire? I can't remember on top of my head. Let's see. That's a quick. Oh, it's actually this summer, 2025. Interesting. I don't know. I just don't see him not renewing. I feel like eventually they're going to end up renewing him. I just see Trent as someone who will end up spending his whole career at Liverpool. But maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I mean, if his contract does end up expiring and Barcelona can get him, I think, why not? But otherwise, there's no way we can afford him. Imad says, Laporta has been nothing but spectacular. I think uniting against him only proves the obvious. They simply want to reap his efforts. Absolutely. I think it's pure opportunism. Anyways, you get it. I don't know why I can't say the word. Klaus said Chelsea have more players than fans now. Absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, again, I think Todd Bowley, who's the new owner of Chelsea, I think because he's American, us Americans, most of us don't know much about football. So I think when Todd Bowley bought Chelsea, they told him that the team that signs the most players automatically wins the trophy, but they didn't really explain to him about goals and points in the league and, how cups are knockout. Nobody explained that to him. So I think he thinks that the club that ends up with most players at the end of the transfer market gets handed a trophy. And I think he's stuck to that. So every summer or winter, he just signs 1 million players. And I got the most. Where's my trophy? And then they're like, Todd, that's not how it works, bro. You have to win matches. What? Nobody told me that. Lifestyle Hack says, Mo, I wasn't surprised when I heard Yamal got injured because late he got angry when. No, it has nothing to do with it. He already explained he got angry in the last 2 substitutions that he did because he felt that he hadn't performed well. Plus, if you sub someone out and give them the rest, they're going to get rest. Just because they got angry doesn't mean all of a sudden the rest is canceled. Like, oh, I only played 60 minutes. Yeah, but I got angry. So it's like I played 90 minutes. I don't think that's how the body works. Let's see. Klaus says, but I don't want Pogba at Barca. Yeah. I don't know how people are suggesting Pogba. Pogba hasn't played in, 18 months or something like that? He was already struggling before, and now you want him to come when he's pretty much retired for the last 16 months or 18 months or however long he's been out. Larana Culé says, hope you're well, bro. Reece James is an absolute stud when he's healthy. Unfortunately, I just didn't get to see very often. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think he's a great, great player, but unfortunately, he just cannot stay healthy. And Yomi Donna says, hey, Mo, given Enrique's recent comments, do you think Barca legends would consider him a true culé? I'll talk about Luis Enrique in the next video because I am going to touch on more statements than he said. But I think Luis Enrique is making a huge, huge mistake of constantly, talking about Barcelona, about Xavi, stuck in, and today he was talking about Araujo. And don't get me wrong, everything he's saying is true. It's 100% true. He's not making things up. But it's like, dude, what are you doing? Just stop. Like, if you think those things, great. Think them all you want. Talk about them with your friends, with your family. But don't go to the press with that stuff because, yeah, you're angering the fans, and that's going to ruin your legacy. Because I already see it on my videos. People comment, Luis Enrique sucks. He hasn't done anything in his career. He had the MSN. And it's like, all right, time out, guys. Luis Enrique was a great coach. He won a treble. There's only a handful of coaches who've done that in the entire history of the sport. There is nothing short of a miracle to win a treble, and Luis Enrique did it. So let's start because that's human nature, right? You have something great, and as soon as that's something great, something you don't like, all of a sudden that something great is shit, right? And it's no, that something great is still great. Just because they said something you didn't like doesn't make them shit overnight. And Luis Enrique is still a great coach who accomplished something incredibly amazing at Barcelona, and just because he's making these statements, it doesn't take it away. Like, people already, oh, who's the MSN? I think we've seen time and time again that having great players is not all. You still need a great coach, right? Look at PSG under the previous under who's the clown that they had last season? I forgot, but he had Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar, and he didn't do shit. Look at the squad under Flick. It's literally the same exact squad under Xavi, and look at the two different. It's like night and day, right? So it's not just like, oh, he had great players. You got to know what to do with those players. So let's not try to take away from what Luis Enrique did because of his stupid statements. Now, having said that, his statements are stupid. He needs to stop making them. Like, they're 100% correct, but what are you doing? All you're doing is angering the fan base, and now all people are gonna think is Luis Enrique's statements. They're gonna forget that he won us a treble. Kind of like with Koeman, right? With Koeman, who won't shut up. He keeps talking about Barcelona. And now people don't remember Koeman, the legend, the guy who won us our first Champions League in history. No, now people remember Koeman and his stupid statements. So Luis Enrique needs to stop making these statements because he's not winning any favors, right? It's like, what are you doing? And then we're already seeing, like I said, people trying to take away the fact that he won a treble. Like, come on, guys. Not the Gamer says, how does buying owning a percentage players' rights work? If you owe 50%, and whatever club that owns them owns the other 50%. When that player is sold, you split it, right? If Celta Vigo sell Oscar Mingueza for 100 million, since we owe 50%, we get 50. Celta Vigo get the other 50. Ibrahim says, long time. Today I stayed up to watch the live podcast. Hector Ford is not ready yet. Mo, let's bring Oscar so that Kunde will be having time to rest. Thank you, my friend, for staying up late to watch the podcast. And yeah, it is looking like we might need someone. But again, I would just hate to see what it would do to Hector Ford. And Robert said, James is referred by Chelsea fans as I'll be right back due to the frequent injuries. Barcelona should not waste money on such injury-prone player. No worry. He's just being linked to Barca. Doesn't mean Barcelona are looking to sign him. Nima says, can't we move forward to Martin's position and also bring in Mingueza? We could. But I think Flick likes Gerard Martin because Gerard Martin's a lot more defensive. He's not an attacking, so he's not really a fullback. He's more of a left back versus a fullback, someone who can go up and down. So I think that's why Flick likes to have him on the squad, because he is a complement to Balde, who's more of an attacking fullback, right? Gerard Martin is more of a defensive fullback. Having Hector Ford on the same side as Balde, they're both do the same. They're both attacking fullbacks. So I think that would kind of defeat the purpose. But again, I'm just guessing here. Romain says, hey, Mo, as a Barcelona fan from Barbados, I would like to thank Laporta for his job he is doing. Thank you, my friend. I would like to thank you for watching and for commenting. And Maxime says, hey, Mo, are there any updates on Christensen coming back? Having more players in the squad will never damage us. I made an update in yesterday's video. There is no update. There is no timeline. The club has no idea when he will be back. And let's see, last one. But Buzuki Man says, why does Flick prefer Mingueza? Who does Flick prefer? Mingueza for sure. We don't know if Flick prefers Mingueza, but we do know that the club are weighing bringing him back heavily. Because as we've learned from past months, Flick doesn't care. Flick is like, whoever you bring me, I'll make it work. And he's not lying, because that's exactly what he's doing. Whatever they bring him or they don't bring him, somehow, some way, Flick finds a way to make it work. All right, that is all the news for this podcast. Again, I will be uploading another video in a little bit, so stay tuned to the channel. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscriptions. And as always, peace, colors.